Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. Do you want to become a better shooter, reduce flinch, protect your ears, and just overall enjoy shooting your gun that much more? Then there's no better way to do that than by adding a suppressor to the end of your barrel. Be sure to check out Huxwrx Safety Co, as they are a leader in the suppressor world with their OSS Flow-Through Technology, virtually eliminating blowback and toxic gas that can affect weapon system performance and shooter health. To find out more about Huxwrx, go to huxwrx.com. That's huxwrx.com, and go get yourself a suppressor for your upcoming hunts. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by OnX Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the number one hunting GPS app, and that is OnX Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, OnX Hunt is the number one GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust OnX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about OnX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt. And check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. If you're in the market for optics, I want you to go check out blackdiamondoptics.com. Black Diamond Optics offers world-class sporting and tactical optics, including thermals, all at wholesale pricing, direct to consumer. They are going to be partnering up with us for 2023, and I want to start pointing you over towards their direction. Check out Black Diamond Optics. If you've got any questions about it, shoot us a message. Love to hear from you. Be blessed, everybody. All right, guys, if you're looking for a better way to stay hydrated this coming hunting season and on all your adventures in the future, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Their swig rig is awesome, an absolute game changer when it comes to staying hydrated. I get tired of playing around with any water bladders in my bag and having to remove things to get to them and the chance of them puncturing and all that. So what Hardside did, take Nalgene's, got multiple sizes, and you're attaching your hose straight to that. Keep it on the outside of your pack, a lot easier to use. They also have a lot of other cool things. Go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10. That's all one word. Save yourself 10% at checkout. Hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Be blessed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and tonight I am joined by an amazing human being, somebody who has had it on their heart their entire life to invest in the hearts and lives of other people through nonprofit work and through the outdoors specifically. Without further ado, we have the CEO of Pass It On Outdoor Mentors, Brittany French. She went from being a supporter of Outdoor Mentors to full-on CEO and running it and taking it over. And we're going to talk all about this journey of what it's like to share our love and passion of the outdoors with the rest of the world and with the youth of this world, because they need it really bad. So without further ado, Brittany, how are you doing?
Hey, it's good to see you, Johnny.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for hopping on a little Instagram live action.
Super excited about this. Again, I've never done this before, and I'm thrilled because I think it's a great platform to share messages about what the heck everyone's doing in the outdoors.
Oh, yeah. Dude, so there's a lot of cool things happening. But more importantly, what is going on with you? We talked before we started hitting the record button.
Yeah.
I had you in my phone as Brittany Waldman, and I was like, wait a minute, that's not correct anymore. You've had quite a year.
Oh, who's that girl? Yeah, I tell you what, Johnny Mac, I think since I've met you, I started dating someone, I got engaged, we got married, and now we have a little girl on the way.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah. God is good. Life is good. I'm just super thankful for all these blessings going on right now.
Yeah, man, life is good. God is good. I second
Yeah.
that wholeheartedly. I can't believe I'm in Texas. I'm
Right.
moving my family 2,000 miles away and just to a place I've never been. Showed up.
Mhm.
I was like, I guess we're gonna buy this house. Never I saw it the day I pulled up. I was like, okay, this will do.
Yeah. I remember getting a message from you like, "Hey, leaving Washington, going to Texas, like gonna be closer to Kansas so I can mentor." I'm like, "What?" And was wild because when we first connected, it wasn't even Soul Seekers yet, right?
Nope.
Soul Hunter
Yep.
podcast.
Yep.
And what was that, episode 43? Is that what you said?
Yes, episode 43. So like almost 200 episodes ago we connected.
It's
And
great.
it's just so funny how time flies and things progress. So
Yeah,
let's
well, kudos to you for doing that because you have shared so many missions and testimonies of folks in the outdoors of how to be better stewards of the outdoors. So, congratulations to you. That's a huge feat to put that many episodes out there too, and
uh
still passionate about it.
I appreciate it. There has been times where it's like, oh, do I stop? Do I stop? But
Yeah,
I always talk to my wife about this. I'm like, this this idea, this concept, this gift that I've been given almost feels like a burden at times. Like if I'm not doing it, I'm not living out my mission and purpose.
yes,
God says love him and love man, and my way of loving man is by investing time and energy and effort into sharing the good news, the good works, and what I believe is the outdoors. And so
that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
so mentorship is conservation, and
Yeah.
here we go. So, Brittany, for all the people who are joining the Instagram Live and who are going to listen to this episode, what is Pass It On Outdoor Mentors, and why should we even care about it?
Yeah. What is this program? We are a 501c3 nonprofit with a mission to empower kids in the outdoors through hunting, through fishing, through shooting sports, and through mentorship. We've been around for 22 years, and every year we keep growing. We're connecting with more folks in the outdoors who want to give back, whether they're a landowner or a mentor. We're finding more kids to serve, and we're growing across the country as well. We're now operating in 3 different states.
3 different states.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I met you or reached out, I'm trying to think like I heard of this program called Outdoor Mentors, and I was like,
Yeah.
dude, this is right up my alley.
Hmm.
Being a school teacher in the state of Washington, which is, being down in here in Texas is a culture shock to what we know in our small little bubble. And this is one of the things I want to share with all the listeners or all the people who are joining on the Instagram Live is we get so caught up in this world that if it's not right here, right now, and around us, it's not real or it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
I made a Instagram post this last week talking about people defending hunting.
Hmm.
Um, in the state of Washington, predator hunting is under attack, big
Yeah.
time. And moving to Texas, it's like, oh, well, that's up there. I'm down here. No, it doesn't work like that. We actually
Yeah.
need to have more of a universal view, a world view of hunting, of the outdoors, and to understand that every little ripple effect and stone thrown in that pond hits all edges and it impacts it. And so, whether we are in New Jersey and there's something going on in New Mexico, Washington, and Texas, Florida, Hawaii, I mean, throwing out all the states, we need to be invested into what we love. So, um, so talk about the program, Outdoor Mentors.
Yeah. Historically, Johnny, we got started as a program partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters. So, for those of you who don't know what Big Brothers Big Sisters is, it's a national mentoring program, right? Matching caring adults with younger youth who are longing for some direction, whether they don't have two parents at home, maybe there's some incarceration amongst their parents, maybe they're living in poverty, or better yet, maybe they just need some extra guidance because they don't have a lot of that in their lives. So
Yeah.
we started originally in that capacity because we were having a hard time in the state of Kansas finding men to mentor these young boys on the waiting list. So they thought, what a great way to deploy this youth opportunity of hunting with getting these men out to mentor these young boys in the field. And that's kind of where it all started. And that was as early as 1999. And then in 2002, we officially started our program. And Mike Christensen is our founder of our program. And he ran that for, I mean, quite frankly, 2 decades. Really, really well with very big intention of we have to serve those who are underserved in our communities, especially in the outdoors, because they're the farthest away from experiencing the joys that you and I do.
Mhm.
So many others do in the outdoors. But since 2018, 2019, that's probably when we connected last and did the podcast. We kind of had this pie in the sky idea. And when I joined the Outdoor Mentors team officially as a staff member, to bridge this gap between target shooting and hunting, right? So all of a sudden, the across the country we see all these shooting sports teams mushrooming in size. I mean, it's incredible. We didn't have a trap team when I was in high school, but now every high school in my state pretty much has a trap team, which is cool because these kids are varsity lettering in it. It's a co-ed sport. They're getting college scholarships for it. They're building confidence. They're understanding, the Second Amendment right. What's it like to buy ammo? Where do my PR dollars go? Like it's just a great thing for these kids. So the big question that was there was how do we get those kids out hunting? Are they hunting? What are they do they care about hunting? Like you mentioned, we've got to figure out how we can engage this next generation because they're the future of hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
So that's where we kind of started really branching out on our program and growing it. So since then, we're now serving kids in Kansas, Iowa, and starting program this fall in Wisconsin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hopefully Texas very soon, huh?
I mean, yes, we're trying. I get emails every day like, when y'all coming to Nebraska? When y'all coming to Oklahoma? I'm like, we're trying.
I love it. No, you're absolutely correct. So this idea of we're all here, we're participants in what we love.
Hmm.
How much do we love it? How
Yep.
much do we want to make sure that it sticks around for generations to come?
Mhm.
Do we, you know, and it's easy to say, not my problem, not right now.
Sure.
I'll deal with it down the road. And it's been talked about multiple times. What is it? I think Boone and Crockett on their website has the 5 stages of a hunter,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
How, at the beginning stages, you just want to um, experience it, and then you just want to notch any tag, and then you start to look for a higher quality animal that is a representation of that species, and then it's less about the animal, more about like the adventure and like, oh, where haven't I hunted yet? To the point
Yeah.
where I don't even need to do this anymore. I just really enjoy watching other people
Yeah.
find enjoyment out of that, which is beautiful. The problem is by the time a lot of hunters who have been in the game since they were kids, they don't reach that stage until they're older. And then by that time, maybe they're a little burnt out, or maybe they're not as invested, and they've run the gamut. But
Mhm.
there lies the problem, and why I started up my mission of mentorship as conservation is that you're missing this middle section of people that can buy a hunting license, that can buy an ammo, buy weapons, that don't have age restrictions on themselves, and also have the ability to travel and invest in the hearts and lives of other people, and they're becoming parents themselves
Yep.
and all that. I love this idea, and I apologize, but I don't know if you know this about me yet. So you knew that I was a PE teacher for
Yeah.
a while. So I, down here in the state of Texas, am working in what's called the DAEP. It is like the naughty school, not alternative. It is like we got a metal detector, we got no windows, kids are in
Okay.
uniforms, um, and it's the place where a lot of criminals go. Got kids in ankle monitors, all sorts of stuff. And I look at all these children, which
Mhm.
is not your typical, like they're closer to prison than they are to returning back to general population schools.
That's a reality.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, these kids Now, I'm going with a narrow view of this.
Mhm.
These kids need to know something more than just their day-to-day life, because all they're getting modeled for them is drugs,
Mm.
alcohol, crime. When you ask them, how many of you, your parents, are in prison or jail? The majority of their kids' hands go up. How many of you have a relative that's in jail? All of their hands go up.
Yeah.
And, I call it generational sin, or, breaking the cycle. But at some point, the most powerful question I was ever asked in my life didn't come until I was in my mid 30s. And that was when someone said, "What do you want?"
Mm.
And and it's like, wait a minute, that shouldn't be such a hard question to answer. But it
Yeah.
is, because we're never asked that. What do
Yep.
you want?
Mhm.
And so you guys, introducing the outdoors and connecting the dots, not just between trap shooting, but actually, okay, you shoot at paper, or you shoot at steel, or you clay pigeons. What's the progression beyond that?
Yep. Yep. How do you, what do I want, right? Like, I would say right away, I want to make generational impact in the outdoors, right? Like, I want these kids to become so passionate about the outdoors that they're ate up about it,
Yeah.
like they are TikTok, like they are about their Xbox or
Right.
the next trending thing, right? Like, at some point, it's so cool to see these kids get excited about something bigger than themselves.
Yes. Yeah, modern day society is so self-consuming. And
Yeah.
ironically, even hunting is, in general, is like, it's a selfish activity.
Yes.
And so for somebody to go beyond themselves to say, "No, I'm going to share this," and not
Yeah.
just be self-consuming, it's a big deal.
It is. It is.
How did you get started into hunting?
Yeah. Well, as a kiddo, yeah, Southwest Kansas, I grew up in a family that was very outdoorsy. Ranching, riding horses, hunting, I played all sorts of sports. It was just a way of life, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think twice about kids or even adults who weren't doing that because all I was surrounded by until I went from this farm town to the concrete jungle of Wichita, Kansas, which I love this town. It's a great town. I live here now, but everybody drives 70 miles an hour, and there's not public land, and there's few public spaces that are slow and airy to where you can connect with nature. And it wasn't until I started playing softball in college and getting into a new routine, a new life cycle, right, that I realized I was walking away from the outdoor industry, this slow paced life that I really enjoyed just because of access
Yeah.
and opportunity. And I didn't realize that as much as that matters until I met Mike Christensen back in 2015, actually. And I was interning at Big Brothers Big Sisters, so I knew that space really well. I knew there was a ton of kids out there who definitely did not grow up like me and were experiencing disadvantages that I couldn't even fathom, and like my privilege was put in a check really fast. Right. So I already knew I was doing good work at Big Brothers Big Sisters, but then Mike Christensen popped into my cubicle and was like, "Hey, I heard you like to hunt fish." I'm like, "Yeah, why?" Like, no one's really talked to me about that since I got to the city. Like, is there a group for that? Like, can I join them? He goes, "Yeah, why don't you help me take some kiddos out hunting this turkey season?" I was like, "Well, I've never shot a turkey. I've never turkey hunted. There just weren't a lot of opportunities in Southwest Kansas for me to do that." And he goes, "Oh, that's okay. You just need to go sit on this bucket and make sure this little girl, does everything she needs to do safe and she's having fun." I was like, "Well, sure. Why not take some inner city kids out, shoot guns at animals?" I remember telling my mom that first time. I thought she was gonna drive to Wichita and like kick my butt. She's like, "I don't understand," but it was the like most perfect moment because I feel like this is where my the passion for the outdoors really just like struck me down. Like, God hit me with a 2x4. And we were driving to Harveyville, Kansas, of all places. There's like zero cell phone reception there. Going through the Flint Hills, and I've got a couple kids with me and another mentor. And I see this kiddo looking out the window, and he's like, "Brittany, Brittany, what is that? Miss Brittany, what is that?" And I look, and it's a cow.
What's up, Soul Seekers Nation? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it. As a reward, I have some discount codes for you to use if you are in the market for a brand new hunting pack. Go check out initialascent.com and Initial Ascent packs. They are made in America. Their one-piece carbon frame is an absolute game changer. We run their packs. We love them. And you can save 5% at checkout by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. Also, for those of you who are archery hunters and you are tired of shooting at dots on a target, check out deadnutsoutdoors.com for their lifelike 2D archery targets. You can save 20% on all of their products by using the code SOULSEEKERS at checkout. Once again, the code is SOULSEEKERS, all one word. Go check out initialascent.com and Dead Nuts Outdoors. Enjoy the podcast.
But I think it's just a cow. And you were driving, and I'm driving and looking. No, what is that? And it's not uncommon for you to see antelope or maybe prairie chickens. It's the wild, right? Like, who knows what he actually saw out there? So I was like, let's just pull over and check it out. Oh, it's a big old beef cow. Like, that's a beef cow, a brindle beef cow. And I could look back at him and see like this embarrassment run through his face as I just realized he didn't understand that a dairy cow, like a black and white dairy cow, which is very representative in the schools, right? Mm-hmm. Of like, oh, this is where you get milk. This is where meat comes from, is not actually the case in reality. Like, that beef cow will go to a packing plant, right?
Right.
Will then process and then put into the grocery stores. And then I had a moment of, wow, like, this kiddo probably doesn't have the means in his household to buy protein to even know that there's like steps to that process. And yeah. I call it my holy cow moment for that reason, because I just realized right in that moment, this is such an important program. There's such a generational gap. There's such an educational gap. Like, it just, there's so much work to be done in this outdoor space for the next generation. So, in a short breath there, that's kind of how I got started as a volunteer, learning the program, just giving my time and getting excited about the outdoors, learning from these kids, from these landowners that, donate their land to us. It's just, I've learned so much from all of it.
So a couple things that take away that I really want to highlight right there in that story, which is beautiful. Number one, you didn't know how, but you still did.
Yes.
And that is something I want to get through people's heads. You don't have to know everything about hunting or even how to hunt to still mentor somebody, right? You can still just journey with them. As a school teacher, when I was in my last year of college, about to do my student teaching, I had a really good professor, and he told me, he goes, one of the most powerful learning experiences for your students will come when they ask you a question that you do not know the answer to. Mm-hmm. And instead of playing the superior above, talking down to them, it was that's a really good question. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to find out and I'm going to get back to you.
Yeah.
And when you are humble enough to be able to say that, then it becomes super impactful, not only for the student, but also for you. It remotivates you and it holds you accountable for the knowledge in which you hold. And so when it comes to hunting, this idea of, well, why do you hold the gun that way? Or why do you do things this way? Instead of the answer of, oh, I don't know, it's just kind of how I was taught, or that's what my grandpa did, or whatever. It's like, no, let's break it down. This is the why of it all. And this is what makes it stick with our brains, right? When we can associate a topic or an idea with something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, so interesting to me too, because the biggest complaint I get from mentors, and not even complaint, but just like this, oh, I can't mentor. And why? Well, I'm not an expert. I'm new to it as well. Or I've never shot a deer. I can't teach you how to field dress. I'm like, I don't care. Like, and I share my story all the time. I am not, I love the outdoors, but I am not this endowed outdoor know-it-all, right? Like, I'm learning every day and I'm eager to do that. And I think transparency with kids and just adults, let's face it, is the best thing we all need to practice, right?
Yeah.
that's how we all make progress. And I tell our mentors all the time, like, it's so much more than about shooting the gun, harvesting an animal. It's more about being a listening ear, showing up to them, listening to them so thoroughly that you don't have to even respond, right? Just that you're listening
Yeah.
matters tenfold compared to everything else you think that would matter.
Being present for people.
Yes.
Uh, Nowadays, we are so consumed
Yeah.
with the buzz of society.
Yes.
What notification am I getting on my cell phone? What email am I getting? Oh, have I gotten an email? I don't know. I better check it. Oh, has anyone liked my post? Is anyone actually joining this Instagram live? Does
Yeah.
any of this really matter? And ultimately, people are afraid to be alone. And
Yeah.
there's comfort because we're meant to be in community, right? So we need to be alone in order to understand the power of community. And so even if I'm with somebody who doesn't know the answer, just being with them
Yep.
is comforting.
Yes. It's amazing how much you feel empowered by doing that with somebody,
Yeah,
right? Brene Brown that says, do it afraid. But even if you do it afraid, it's 10 times better than just not doing it.
right. Right. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. What I love, so you shared your story about you not knowing a whole lot, but going through the experiences. The other
Mm.
thing that you mentioned is this idea of like, oh, well, yeah, that's a cow. Like, duh, it's a cow.
Yeah.
You've had a hamburger before, right? Like, you should be aware of that. But we live in such a small, narrow-minded viewpoint world that if our basic needs, and now we're talking like for you inner city kids, right?
Yep.
So, Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Mm.
it comes out huge in this. You
Yep.
have to have food and shelter and safety
Yep.
um, before anything else matters. And if you're
Yep.
not accomplishing that, or if it's not provided for you, then you can't get to that next step.
Hmm.
And ultimately, it's self fulfillment, right? And being
Yep.
satisfied through what we do. So when you can give someone time and mentorship and love them, then you're fulfilling that second step in that hierarchy, which then allows them to have self actualization and work their way up because their needs are getting met.
Yep.
Why is this important? Is because when people have their needs met, they're able to then focus outside of themselves and not just be inwardly focused the entire time. Which, if we care about hunting and conservation and having it last for generations, then we need people that can outwardly focus and
Yes.
think beyond what their next meal is. And let's think about what that kid is going to eat or what it's going to look like when they're adults. And one of the questions I have for you in regards to all this is you're teaching these skills, but are you
Hmm.
teaching the impact and importance of being an American citizen
Hmm.
and voting and the understanding of the Second Amendment and the reason why we have it and standing up for tyranny and it
Yep.
not just being hunting and all that?
Yeah, I get so excited when people ask me that question, and it certainly comes up, right? Kids and guns don't usually do well in headlines. Even hunting, it's received negatively oftentimes in today's world with kids associated with it. And I love taking that on because these kids need to know,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not if your child will be around a gun, it's when they will be. And I want them to know everything they need to know about how to get out of that situation safely, diffuse the situation, or if they're hunting, for this example, know when it's the right time to leave, or know when to call their crossing a tree line or a fence row with their gun still loaded, right? It's the little things that matter so much in our program because you're right. We're teaching more than just it's great to shoot a deer and get that head, right? Or that tail feather, right? That's all great. But reality is there's so much more here. Like, did you know when you buy a firearm or a box of ammo or a hunting license, you're contributing back to PR? Well, what's PR? Oh, well, here's a bigger conversation we can have. Well, do you like your state parks? Yeah. Well, how do you think your state manages those? And it's all through PR, right? Like
Yeah.
it's this cycle. And then when you turn 18 and you can go vote, and there's a public land issue on the docket, you can say yes or no. Like you have the power. But if you don't educate yourself and you don't go vote, it doesn't matter. Like you missed your shot.
Right. Right. And PR, we're not talking about uh, public relations.
I validate that often. I'm like, oh yeah, not everybody knows that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like, I don't even know it as well as I feel
Yeah.
like I need to know it. And so, for all the listeners of this podcast, how would you explain what PR is?
Yeah. So Pittman Robertson dollars are basically, if I go buy a firearm, there's an excise tax on that firearm that gets dumped into a federal bucket. And at the end of each year, the federal bucket gets dispersed to your state agency where you bought that firearm, in my case, Kansas. And let's just pull a number out of a hat. Say Kansas sold lots of firearms, they sold lots of ammo, they had a lot of people buy hunting licenses. They're going to get $10 million. Again, not sure that's the right number. I'm speaking hypothetically. $1 million to use to put back into the state. So rejuvenating boat ramps, creating shooting ranges for people, using it for marketing campaigns to translate our fishing guides from English to also now Spanish. So the outdoors becomes more diverse and inclusive, right? So that's the beauty of PR dollars, and how I would best explain it.
I love it. It's very important for people to understand that that's a powerful thing,
Yeah.
which then brings me to the next topic I want to hit with you
Yeah.
is what President Biden is
Uh,
recently doing, where he's defunding
yep.
um, hunter education and archery and schools programs and all that. Can you talk about that because that impacts what you guys do directly?
Yeah, that was really startling to learn about, read about, understand that it's happening, right? Like it's not that it was in the works, it was executed, right? It's a huge disservice to our kids, because that's taking away now recreational programming, right? Like national archery in schools. That's a program for kids to develop hand-eye coordination. It's just like bowling, right? Like it's no different than any other sport, but because it has this weight of conservation tied to it, right? Or that it's kind of in a firearm industry, it gets this negative kind of feel and also lumped into this. So I, I am super disappointed about it. Like it's not one of those things that I can't even fathom how it got to this point, because it is going to defund not only national archery in schools programs, it'll change the way hunter education is taught in school, how we teach even survival skills in school, right? Like the Tomorrow Foundation out of Texas, right? Like they do this really cool outdoor adventure curriculum in hundreds of thousands of schools across the nation. What
Hmm.
do they teach? Hunter ed, they teach survival skills, they teach things about firearms, about archery. All that is now at risk because of.
Yeah. Well, and understanding that the power of voting
Mhm.
impacts this, right? Everything that we do, like let's get a big viewpoint, is you love hunting. You also got to identify the people that you're voting for and what they stand for. Because I don't know if you know this, I actually probably wasn't one when we first met. I am a national archery in schools instructor.
So
So when I heard about this, all right, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode. As a thank you, I got more discount codes for all of you. If you are in the market for anything in regards to calls, whether it's elk calls, turkey calls, deer or predator calls, you can save 15% on all Rocky Mountain hunting calls by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. And if you're in the market for hard side hydration, a better way to hydrate, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10 to save 10%. And We also have a discount at Graxaw.com. That is, Graxaw is the leader in ultralight game bags and other backcountry gear. Light, fast, and efficient is their motto. Use the code SOULSEEKERS, all one word, to save 10% at checkout.
Yeah.
I was like, no freaking way. But talking to people about like everything that we do, everything that we say, how we are, how we show up, how we talk about hunting, how we talk about the outdoors makes a difference because we are constantly, let's see here. I want to make sure I get my words correct.
Words matter, Johnny.
Words big time matter. Everything in this world is marketing. We are constantly marketing ourselves. We are constantly consuming some sort of marketing, whether it's through social media or TV or radio or the clothes that we wear, the shoes we put on our feet, the toothpaste and the soap we use. Like everything is marketing.
Yep.
And so we as a collective need to be aware of that and understand that everything matters.
Yeah.
Everything. How we tell our stories of hunting matter. Sharing that food matters. And have it be engaging and catchy. And this is like that primal transformation that I talk about is like when someone tells me something like, Brittany, you will not believe this. I just went to this restaurant in town. It was incredible. You got to try it. Next weekend, this Friday, this Saturday, you got to go. You're gonna be intrigued and be like, okay, I want to know more. I got to try this. Same thing with hunting. Same thing with shooting. Same thing with anything recreational, or really with anything in life. But I'm going to speak specifically to the hunting and shooting aspect. Is we need to be like, guys, you don't understand. My life was transformed the minute I became a hunter.
Yep.
Like I became a better husband, a better father, a better employee, a better business owner, a better brother, son, daughter, the list goes on, all because I challenged myself. I grew through grit, determination, courage, fortitude. I learned something. I was able to be still and hear my own thoughts and like wrestle with myself, face fear, like all that stuff. This is my soapbox I'm standing on, but this is why I do what I do. Like,
keep going, man. Keep going.
Because it matters.
It does. It 100% matters. And I think it's so, like I said, words are important, right? They are so important. Even the nittiest, grittiest detail of a story, and I think about this all the time. We get comments on about our Facebook page. Outdoor Mentors is our Facebook page. Y'all do a great job at like telling authentic stories. That's kind of the feedback we get. And I'm like, yeah, because you have to, right? Like I am less worried about who might be offended by a picture or, that this kid might have shot a deer, but it wasn't the biggest deer, or maybe we did a preserve hunt and all the feathers on that rooster fell off. Or I don't care, right? Like what I care the actual content of the story, right? Like the actual connection and the progress made in the outdoors and through different generations in that moment. And it so sincerely matters. I can't echo what you said.
Yeah. I got a story I want to talk about in regards to that, but I want to answer a question that just popped up from Send It 110. He says, what was the program she just said again? Outdoor survival skills?
Oh, yeah.
What were you talking about?
Yep. So it's called the Outdoor Tomorrow Foundation. They're out of Texas.
Say that one more time.
Outdoors Tomorrow Foundation.
Outdoor Tomorrow Foundation.
Yes. Outdoors for Tomorrow. There might be a 4 in there. Do a quick Google search. They'll pop up.
Okay.
Great foundation. We're in collaboration with them, but they have a outdoor adventure curriculum, basically. And there might be some more words added in that curriculum. But in the inner city that I live in, right, there's 3 or 4 schools that curriculum is being taught. This incredible teacher that we know, Victor Mercado. I don't know if he's listening, but he's a great connection we have. He's one of those instructors. So he's teaching kids hunter ed. He's teaching them NASP. He's teaching them how to put up tents. He's teaching them survival skills, teaching them about public access versus private access. And how do you go about navigating that with people? And it's such a cool curriculum. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah. It's Outdoors Tomorrow Foundation. The website GOOTF.com.
Okay.
GOOTF.com. And ironically, it says they're based out of South Lake, Texas, which means they're an hour away from me. So I'm going to be
Yeah.
looking them up, and we're going to get them on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Not I'll introduce you. There's some wonderful folks there.
man, see, and here's the thing. Why aren't these nonprofits, why aren't these companies, why aren't these organizations being more highlighted? Why aren't the local news channels covering them? Where is the radio stations? Where's the publicity to highlight the good? And yet instead you get a bunch of lies and fake media spreading gossip and garbage to society, and we're all like, oh no,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? And we're spreading a spirit of fear rather than love, power, and a sound mind, which is what it's all about anyways, and standing in truth and righteousness and love and being a conqueror in
Yeah.
this world instead of being a bunch of scared little brats, you know?
Yeah. No, two types of people in the world, right, John? Givers and takers.
Yeah.
And we have to actively be the givers and then go find more givers, right? So we need to actively deploy these stories of the outdoors and how they're empowering kids, how they're changing the trajectory of kids going to jail or going down bad paths or dropping out of high school, or better yet, providing food for their family because there's a shortage, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to actively knock down those doors every single day, and it's a grind.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been told by like, we're not interested in covering kids and guns in the outdoors. I'm like, okay, call me when you are, because we are that platform and there are so many others out there that can do it.
I did so a part of Soul Seekers, formerly
Mhm.
Washington Backcountry and Soulful Hunter, I do community events where let's get people together, let's
Yeah.
have food, let's have drinks, let's do fundraisers, let's get community, the power in numbers.
Yep.
And I was doing a toy drive for Seattle Children's Hospital at the time, and I was like, man, this needs to get on the news. If we want to have a lot of toys donated and a lot of money coming in, we need help beyond ourselves. And I reached out to all the news stations, and they said no.
Mm.
None of them wanted to cover it. And I'm like, why? Because I'm a hunting organization? Because I'm pro Second Amendment? Like, is this not newsworthy? Hey
Yeah.
guys, you want to highlight your community, help support, go down to the local brew pub where all ages are welcome and have a chance to win stuff and support the kids in need.
Yeah.
Like come on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. How do we remove our, yeah, it's like we all have logos, we all have opinions, we all have these things, right? But ultimately the good there is so good, it has to be showed. It needs to be. I would challenge you, John. Like, you got to keep calling them, right? Like, you got to keep nagging them. Show them how they can cover the story that appeals to them, right?
yeah.
I was able to get a news crew out to cover trap shooting practice, all because I told them it was a free program for kids and they're learning new skills. I barely touched on the topic of shooting guns, right? But I said, this matters. And then I mentioned things like, hey, we are breaking barriers to the outdoors, and left it at that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, and now all of a sudden I have some news stations calling me saying, hey, your season opened up. Can we do like a 4-hour segment? And can you line some people up, like, talk about hunter education? I'm like, this is great. Like, this is the movement.
Yeah.
We have people excited.
It only takes a spark
It does.
to ignite an entire blaze.
Yeah.
And if all of us would take that on as a responsibility of,
Mm.
I need to make sure I keep my spark ignited so that it burns and
Yep.
it burns and it spreads. And then maybe my spark is starting to go out a little bit, and then someone comes and they fan it, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, here we go again. It brings me to this, which I wanted to share earlier before I asked the question about the Outdoors Tomorrow Foundation. I had a neighbor, and this neighbor was pro hunting.
Okay.
And he came over. This is during modern rifle season. My second son, his name's Cannon, he is born towards the end of October.
Okay.
Ouch. I didn't really, like not being big into hunting at the time. It's like, oh man, I guess you're going to be spending every birthday at deer camp.
Sorry, buddy.
So his birthday was during modern rifle season in the state of Washington. And I was like, golly, I really want to go. Birthday party's on a Saturday. I was like, all right, well, I'm home. I'm home. We got a birthday party. I'm happy. And I'm going to be present with my children, my wife, and our family. Well, my neighbor, he was invited to the party. He just happened to go out hunting that morning and he shot a deer. And he comes over to the party and he shows me a picture. And I'm like, oh, dude, that is awesome. Like, it's getting my juices flowing.
Yeah.
I go, you got to tell me about it. And here's how the story went. Oh, I parked at a gate. I walked in, saw some other hunters, saw that they were in the area that I wanted to go to. So I was like, I'll take a walk over here. So I took a walk over here and I just glassed in and I just kind of kept walking and I saw a deer. So I glassed it, saw it had antlers. So I put my gun up and I was like, and bada bing, bada boom, deer.
There-
I'm here at the party. I'm like, dude, that story sucked. Tell me a story about like this epic journey, saga, adventure, or even just the details that might like,
Yeah.
how did you find this deer? Was it
Yeah.
towards the edge of the timber? Was it out in the open? Was it feeding? Was it chasing a doe? Like, give me the meat and potatoes of the story and set it up so it's captivating.
Yeah.
Because how we speak makes a difference in this world.
Yes. Yeah. I always try to think about when I'm writing, because it's so easy to like breeze through the details, right? Like, yeah, man, got to the blind, 30 minutes in, the deer came out, I shot it, it was great.
Yeah.
But like, imagine now remove that the firearm out of your hands, and you're in that blind. What do you feel? What do you smell? What do you sense? What do you see? Like, what are the things that you're actually experiencing? What are these grounding moments because of hunting, right?
Yeah.
Like this intense connectivity to the earth, right? Like you don't get it anywhere else. Like those are the things that are way more important than that deer turned broadside within 30 minutes of it coming into my stand, right? Like I'm happy for you, but you're right. There's so much more to it.
So, if that's just a reminder to everyone who listens to
Yeah.
this podcast or is tuning in on Instagram Live, is like
Mhm.
how you tell stories matters because before we had cell phones, before we had internet, before there was TVs, there was radio. And before radio, there was a fire. And we used to sit around it and we used to listen to stories. And those stories inspired us,
Mhm.
motivated us, encouraged us, gave us hope, crushed our dreams,
Yep.
caused us to go soul search, caused us to want to go do something, all because of the power of the tongue.
Yep.
And like writing stuff is cool, pictures are cool, videos cool. But what I learned very quickly in regards to creating content, because I'm filming season 4 of Soul Seekers currently, which is something that was like beyond my wildest dreams back when you and I first started um, recording our very first episode. And what makes a good video to watch
Mhm.
is not the video,
Mhm.
it's the audio.
Yep.
If the audio is bad, it doesn't matter how good the quality is, you're going to tune out.
Yep.
And that is not talked about enough.
Yeah.
Right? In the Bible, we're going to talk a little biblical right here. It says,
Love it.
uh,
Bring it.
the power of life and death is in the tongue.
Yeah.
Meaning that we, who God made us in his image, God's the creator,
Yep.
meaning we are creators, we're co-creators in this world, and what we speak about either brings life or it
Mhm.
brings death.
Mhm.
So how we tell stories, how we communicate with our spouse, how we communicate with our children, how we communicate with those who we want to inspire and lift up and motivate,
Yep.
all matters. And for us to get lazy or rest on our laurels or just not care is not just doing yourself a disservice, but it's doing this world a disservice to not live up to your full potential and be the best human that you could possibly be.
Absolutely. And let's face it, we're on borrowed time. I tell people that all the time. Like I'm young, I'm healthy, and I love this life. I live it till the day I can. But we don't know, right?
Yeah.
So the day we waste by not being that, by not practicing that truth, displaying that truth, that goodness, it's a disappointment to God, right? Like
Mhm.
we're called to be more like him, to be the hands and feet of him. So it's like that's how you do it.
Right. Right. It just blows me away. And it all comes down to, in my opinion, or maybe perspective, because I have experiences and that's how perspectives are formed,
Yes.
is we're so consumed with instant gratification
Yes.
that the idea of the outdoors is nice. And I'll use the word but, not and, because and means this and that. We get to do two things. But
Yeah.
means whatever I said before, but doesn't matter because now here comes the, you know, I love you, Brittany,
But
but, right? So, this idea that this instant gratification is, yeah, outdoors sounds great, hunting sounds great, fishing sounds great, camping sounds great, uh, nature watching sounds great,
yeah.
but I don't have any time.
Yep.
But I gotta work.
Yep.
But I have kids. But and people live this but life and make excuses constantly. And it comes down to what you and I talked about at the beginning.
Hmm.
What do you want?
Yep.
Because we always get what we want at the end of the day.
Yeah. That's how we put. That's where we put our effort. Right. Of course,
Right.
that's
Right.
yeah.
If I didn't want this podcast to be successful, then I wouldn't put energy into it, and therefore it wouldn't be successful.
Yep.
If I didn't want to shoot a big elk during archery season, then I wouldn't put in the effort to learn how to do it and the time and money and
Yep.
energy that it takes to get to that point of being successful.
Yep.
So we always, and I do say always, get what we want. It might not come in the time frame in which we are expecting, but we're constantly creating the world that we want.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that. There really is. There really is. I think the one thing I get so much joy out of how we navigate kids in the outdoors in our program is that they can hunt with us as many times as they want. They can fish with us as many times as they want because we want to cultivate this platform where they're supported and they know what they're doing. They have community to ask others to go with them. They learn about access and things of, but they also understand that hunting is hard. And it's not this glorified thing you see on the TV channels, right? Like
Mhm.
you don't go sit in a deer stand one time and shoot a monster buck. You might go sit in a deer stand for 4 years in a row and be skunked every year trying to shoot that monster buck, but you still had this incredible experience. So what's the good you find in those moments? And how do you apply it to your future moments and keep, like you said, stoking that fire? I think that's so important because we do live in this world where like, oh, I got this message. Let me go check it. I got this 42 likes on my post. Man, that's great. It is instant gratification, and hunting doesn't always come with that,
No.
right? So you have to reframe and retrain your brain. What's gratifying about the outdoors if it's not shooting a big deer, if it's not shooting a bag limit?
Yeah. Let me ask you this because I'm a huge supporter of Howl for Wildlife. They're a newer organization within the
Okay.
last couple of years that are popping up. And one of their founders, he hopped on Instagram and just like his demeanor of how he was doing it, he was leaning over on a desk like this. His room's dark, and he's just looking in the camera and he's like, how do we make hunting cool? How do we make supporting conservation cool?
Yeah.
Because I have this thought all the time because I'm over here living my best life when I get to share the gospel of hunting in the outdoors. I'm like, guys, you don't understand. This is incredible. Like, come on, come
Yeah.
join me, right? Like, I'm the fisher of men for hunting. Like, hey, let's cast your nets to the other side of the boat. Pick up your cross, pick up your
Yeah.
gun, your bow, and follow me. Like, I mean, I don't want to sound, what's the term? Like, bad for like representation of Jesus and the Bible
Yeah.
and whatnot, but you understand, like, we need to share the gospel
Yeah.
of the outdoors.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, is like, how do we make it cool?
Mm,
What is holding people back? Why isn't stuff going viral?
yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts in that?
Yeah. Gosh, if I had a dollar for every time I could make something go viral that I wanted to make go viral, I'd probably fund our organization. I wish I understood that, right? Like I wish I understood trends better. I wish I could the headspace we're all in, right? But I think coming out of a post-pandemic world that was just weird, let's face it, everything was weird. We all of these activities, right? Think about sporting events, school stuff, like everything was just canned, and like we all of a sudden are cohabitating. Let's face it, more spending more time on our phone, on in front of the TV. Like we almost have this like false. So it's like I get invited. It's just so you get invited to go out and have a beer with some friends, or go to this float trip, or go kayaking, right? All of a sudden, that becomes like a lot of work and unattractive. But I'll watch Instagram reels about it all the time. And I don't get it. I really don't get it. I wish I had the answer. Like, how do we make it cool? And besides say we gotta be true to ourselves and speak, passion to others about what we're doing. This is why I love what I do.
Yeah.
This is why you should join me. And I think that's the other thing is I feel like we often cast invitations out to others like, yeah, come home with me sometime. That'd be great. But is it actually authentic? Like, is it actually like, do you actually want that person to come? And are you going to follow up with them? Right. I
Yeah.
caught myself today. I was networking with some two professionals. They're like, hey, I never learned to hunt. I'd love to do that. And I caught myself right away responding, oh, I'll teach you. But I drove home and just until now, I was like, I haven't thought two thoughts about that and how awful that is. Cause like, I need to come up with a plan. I got to get those two women outdoors.
Yeah.
Right? I got to actually extend the invitation and invite them to come with me.
Yeah.
That's how you make something viral, right? Like it's the follow through.
Yeah. There's, you ever heard the shotgun effect? Like when you take a test,
Uh-uh.
as a school teacher, I got so many teaching references that I pull from. Well, kids don't know answers, so they'll just like throw out every answer they can, hoping that one of them is what the teacher's looking for. And it's like, oh, dude,
It's
I'm gonna.
sounding a little like my childhood. Yes.
So
Oh
the
well.
the idea of that is great. The problem is that we don't know the content. And it's
Yeah.
better to go deeper than it is wider,
Mm.
right? Like if someone was to really soul search themselves and say, would I rather make a very shallow impact in 100 people's lives or make one really big impact and deep and meaningful impact in one person's life? Right? Like
Yeah.
you have to ask yourself that question,
Yeah.
because the shotgun effect, I know as a teacher, when I get that, I'm like, next. Like this is you're wasting my time and you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Uh, let's be purposeful, intentful.
Yeah.
Like if you really want to teach someone how to hunt, then follow through with it. And if you don't. But you can still encourage them to check it out on their own.
Yeah.
Like,
Connect with other resources.
yeah.
Yeah. We got to walk the walk.
And at the same time, make it cool. Make that
Yeah.
walk look cool. Like, get some swagger up in here.
Working in a youth organization is you quickly realize how fast you are aging. Like I might feel like young and I can keep up with these kids, but I don't know a darn thing they're saying. Like I'm over here Urban Dictionary and half the lingo they're using, like talking about the platforms they're using. I'm like, what's that one for again? Oh,
Hmm.
this one Be Real. I'm like, what's Be Real, right? Like that's a thing. I, it's like forever changing.
Yeah. But you know what doesn't change? The power of the outdoors.
Yes. Yep. And
And
that's yours.
and teaching them that, you know, and this was something that I was told at a younger age. And you could apply this to a lot of things. One day you're going to leave the game or the
Mm.
game is going to leave you. Meaning that what is your life or what you are considering your whole world
Yeah.
isn't going to be there. It's not going to be with you forever. So who are you underneath it?
Yep.
What are you like when you're alone in a room or out in a field or in a tree stand or deer blind, or because that's the real person. Like that, people on the deathbed of like, oh man, I wish I would have done this. Like, and who do you really want to be?
Hmm.
These are the things. That's why the podcast is called Soul Seekers. Ironically, I don't. It's the deep thoughts with Johnny and Brittany.
Buckle up, folks.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. Just like we're kind of a society that's wrapped in instant gratification, but we are also struggling with identity every day, right? Like you introduced me as the CEO, but that's not my identity, right? And quite frankly, I'll speak to this. Like hunter is not my identity. Like entrepreneur is not my identity. Like I'm a daughter of Christ. Like that's what I'll go to every day. That's going to look different for everybody. I respect that. But we've got to really empower everybody to think that way.
Yeah.
You know, get to that point of who are you stripped down, right? Like, and then let that navigate your life forward.
Hmm.
There's many times people have asked, what are your favorite hunting stories with kids? And I think they're always surprised to tell them it doesn't end in a big old deer shot or a bag limit, right? Like I talk about this one girl, Kanaya, who I've been mentoring quite literally since 2015. She was 11 years old back then, just took hunter ed. And she shot her first pheasant, loved it, and just like carried this thing around like a doll almost. Like she was just so proud showing it off to everybody. And right away, I like felt pretty connected to her then. You know, she was just young and vibrant and from an inner city situation, a single parent home, like definitely needed more women in her life to show her the goodness that's out there. And we walked through this life together. Like I grew up with her, right? Like took her on her first turkey hunt. Like we went deer hunting, we went to Wyoming and antelope hunt, right?
Yeah.
And all of those situations that are so great, it's the little things when she emerged as things like, you know, I'm really struggling with this one thing at or how do you talk to like your boys about this situation, right? Or like one time she just told me, I appreciate you mentoring me because you're not bossing me around,
Mm.
right? You just it's those in those moments that's when you realize like that's like the core of my identity is just showing up for somebody else and like being there.
Yeah.
And that's what kids want, especially kids. Like they don't want to be told how to do something or that they're doing something terribly wrong. They just want honesty and support. They want a listening ear.
Well, isn't that ironic? Is that is ultimately what we crave?
Yeah.
Because, kids are no different than us adults. We're still that little child inside of us thinking, man, I can't believe I'm this age already. I feel like it was just yesterday when I was doing these things.
Hmm.
We all just want to be told the truth. We want to be told we're important and we want to feel loved.
Yep.
And if we're not getting that need met, we're going to go search for it in different ways and ultimately not healthy ways for us as
Yeah.
individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what better way to fill that gap than with the outdoors? Like,
Hmm.
I better, right, than the outdoors to fill that gap.
Yeah. Um, you know, let Mother Nature nurture you,
Yeah. But I'm bummed.
right? Going back to what you were saying is like, I don't just identify as a hunter. Like that's not, or a CEO. Like, I did a podcast. This is probably maybe 2 years ago, and the title of it is what what you do is not who you are.
Mm. Hmm.
Because a lot of times, and I had this issue in college when my college football career ended.
Bum, bum, bum.
I know, because weird, the game leaves us or we leave the game. I always had to introduce myself on recruiting trips or when I was in college to new athletes coming in. They wanted you to tell your name, your position, and what high school you went to. And so mine just happened to rhyme. So I'd stand up, kind of clear my throat.
Good.
I'm Johnny Mack, quarterback from Kamiak. And then everyone would start giggling, just like what you're doing right now. And like, oh, that rhymed. Haha, funny. And so like that was like this identity. It's like, oh man.
I'm Joni.
Yeah. Right. And then I was no longer a quarterback.
Mm.
And so here I was. Now I come from a household, and I've shared this story slightly, but my household wasn't the most nurturing. I
Mhm.
have a little traumatic life story that a lot of people don't realize, but it has helped me come to where I am because I can see things in a viewpoint that other people might just ignore as something like connecting with these students in this school that I work at. It's all trauma based, right?
Yeah.
It's that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we act out. Babies don't cry when
Mhm.
they're satiated, when their needs are met. They cry when they need or want something. There's behavior issues when people have needs that are not met. So, this idea of, okay, if we can solve humanity's issues by
Yeah.
identifying basic needs, then it allows them the opportunity to move beyond those basic level necessities. The caveat, the other side of that is you can lead a horse to water,
Mm.
but you can't make it drink.
Mhm.
You can teach someone how to hunt, but if they don't actually care, or if they're not having that aha moment, that holy cow moment of like, whoa, this is more powerful than what I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
That is the missing hook to
Yep.
to getting more people involved.
Yeah. And I think it's also important, Johnny, that not everybody's going to be a hunter.
Yes.
Not everybody's going to be an angler. I think that's great, right? Like, I love that we have this platform, the outdoors, to showcase what we're passionate about and pass on our hunting heritage, if you will, to the next generation. But it's not forced. It's not like you don't have to pick up my hunting heritage and make it your own, right? You can pick it up. I hate deer hunting, but I really like this whole fishing thing, right? Like, that's cool. Run with that. Or better yet, folks might get into it and just realize this isn't for me. Like, I'm really not passionate about it. And here's why. I get more excited about someone, like you mentioned earlier, internally looking at themselves. Who am I? What do I want?
Yeah.
And then make a choice themselves.
Right. But through those, and this is a difference of perspective versus opinion. Opinion is somebody saying, I don't like that. And
Yeah.
and I've never tried it. Perspective comes from I tried that. It's not for me, but I can appreciate why people are so
Yep.
consumed with it.
Yep.
That impacts voting and that impacts legislation and how society supports it or doesn't support it. And
Yep.
that is like the culmination of why it's so important to get other people involved.
Yeah.
You being a mother, a soon to be mother,
Ah,
your
that.
daughter your daughter is going to be raised in an outdoors household.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean she's gonna, right?
Right.
And yes, we want the best for our children, but ultimately we want them to be critical thinkers and to be able to actually say, hmm, here's a problem, here's a scenario. What is the best outcome? What is the best for me, the best for my mom and dad, my siblings? What's going
Yep.
to help me or motivate me or keep me going to achieving what do I want?
Yep.
Um, I know that my mom and dad really love hunting and fishing. So if I vote this way, then I know that they're going to be impacted in a negative manner.
Yeah.
Oh, well, so now I'm not just voting for myself and a selfish concept, but I'm
Yep.
voting for something greater than myself. And that's ultimately what we want, is to feel like we have some legacy of some meaning behind our lives, of like something greater than ourselves. Because
Yeah.
it's not fulfilling just doing everything that like you want. It's like, why did you want to join as a charity, a nonprofit? Why?
Exactly. Like, it's not a like vision everybody has, right? Like, people don't wake up every day like, I'm gonna go bust my butt for a nonprofit, right? Like, that's not a thing. But I think you have to like really listen to the God winks, right? That you get along the way, and if you're truly listening, I mean, those paths become very clear. And this is really a serendipitous moment. I was on Facebook earlier today, and my memories popped up, and it was about outdoor mentors, and it's from 2015. They're talking about the year that I got started in this organization. And it's so funny because I just basically recapped my experience, right, with outdoor mentors. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm thankful for Mike Christensen, his leadership, his mentorship. If I could do this full time, I would. And then I go on to say, like, I'm going to challenge all of you, right, to do something like this because you're doing something that's bigger than yourself. And you're going to reap the rewards of it, right? Like, here I am now. Like, I hunt less now myself than I ever have in my entire life. I'm so happy. I'm so happy because I'm leading a team of really dynamic, passionate individuals to deploy our program across 3 states now, that is creating generational impact in the outdoors through kids,
Yeah.
through mentors. And it's now creating that ripple effect we talked about, right? Like, it's not just creating and recruiting hunters and anglers, right? Like, we're like really challenging people here. Like, we're elevating the bar. And I love it so much. Like, it just gets me.
One of the interesting things that I find is, in the hunting space, we preach to the choir so much, right?
Yes.
Like all these people that are on this Instagram live,
Yes.
highly doubt that they've never hunted before. Like they're probably invested of like, oh man, Outdoor Mentors is going live or Soul Seekers going live. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
So my question to you is this: you have mentors that spend time investing into the youth.
Mhm.
What is the commonality or the common thread or theme that you find in these
Mm.
people that invest, that say, I'm going to do this?
Yeah. I think in few words, it's that they want to share their heritage, and they truly want it to be deployed into the next generation. I think a lot of people are in this moment of this baby boomer gap, if you will, right? Like, a lot of our mentors are older, right? And they have kids who don't hunt, who have grandkids who don't hunt, and they're seeing this generational gap get farther and farther and farther away from. Gosh, I remember growing up hunting with my uncles, and now they're not going to have that in their family. So I think it's this common denominator of, I feel so desperately, there's a sense of immediacy, right? I have to share this,
Yeah.
like, and I have to do it now.
Urgency.
Yes, urgency is a great word. I think that's exactly what it is.
Life is now.
Yes, we're living on borrowed time. We're constantly being attacked. Our rights are, I mean, referenced earlier in the video, right?
Right.
But there is no better time than right. Like it has to happen right now.
Yeah. I this is oh man, this is so deep. And what I love about podcasting and having conversations like this is that once again, we're talking to ourselves. Ho- Hopefully, people tune in and listen.
We hope sometimes, yeah.
But ultimately, what this conversation is just an accountability tool for our own self, right? Like,
Yes.
here we go. We're preaching it. We're talking it. Now we got to
Yeah.
walk it.
Yes.
I saw a video on social media of it showed this father running just on the road, like just taking off running, and it had like inspirational, like motivational music behind it, like
Yes.
you know,
The Rocky song.
yeah, like you could imagine, like it's meant to capture you. Once again, it goes back to sound. Oh man, see. So
There it is.
the point of this video is it was the father
Mhm.
speaking over a video of him running,
Mm.
and it said, as fathers, we tell our children that they can be anything and that they want in this world, that they can do anything that they want, that they can accomplish anything, that whatever dream that they have, to dream bigger and to go get it.
Yeah.
So why are you settling in your 9 to 5?
Mm.
Why are you not chasing your dreams? Because the biggest thing that will stab and cut the most is
Yeah.
when a child will look up at you and say, "So is your dream working that desk job?
Yeah.
Is
Being stagnant.
was your dream being overweight?
Yep.
Was
Yep.
was your dream to be an alcoholic, to be a drug addict, to be
Mhm.
like the list goes on, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa.
Well,
No, son, I gave up on my dreams. Oh,
talk
well,
about
that doesn't model very well, right? Like talk about walking the walk, not just talking it. Hey, you can do anything. Hey, you can be anything.
yep.
But I'm really lying to you because life sucks and you're not going to
Yeah.
amount to anything.
I saw something similar to that, Johnny, and I love it because it's really helped me, like, I think, shape my perspective in day to day life, whether it's my work or personal life or just even things I'm struggling with on my own. Because we all do, right? We're humans. We have struggles. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to sit here and say, I've got it all figured out. Yay, me.
Right.
No, mess. But it's like this concept was you hear people say, I would die for my child. I would literally take a bullet for my husband.
Yes.
That's compassion. But the reverse side is that would you live for them?
Yeah.
Would you go above and beyond to show that ceilings aren't set? Like you can pursue and grow and grow. And then opportunities will come from that, right? Like you start volunteering, guess what? You're now the CEO of an organization. Guess what? Now you're this. Guess what? Now you're involved in this, right? Like it literally starts by just doing, like getting discipline, setting your principles and following through on things. Like it's so important.
Dude, I love that. And William Wallace from Braveheart, all men truly live, not all, or all men die, not all men truly
Yep.
live.
Yep.
And the point of what you're saying is like, yeah, I would take a bullet for you. I would die for you.
Yeah.
But would I make better nutritional habits?
Yeah.
Would I stop smoking?
Yep.
Would I work a second job, or would I control my weight, or would I exercise, or would I be present with my child in moments rather than, ah, children are meant to be seen, not heard?
Yes.
I mean, come on. Talk
Yep.
about a slap to the face. And if you can't
Yeah.
wake up to that, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Would you die for hunting? Would you live for hunting?
Exactly. What do you do to walk that walk every single day?
Yeah.
That a lot now, and I think it's just being one young, which whatever, But also now having a child on the way, right? I get challenged a lot now. Questions like, well, what are you gonna do when the baby comes? I'm like, well, love it. Like, love her so much.
Yeah.
Like, what you do when your babies came? Like, yeah. Like, but it's this like weird perspective a lot of people have, and I don't think it's intentionally come across as like rude or like demeaning, but it's like sometimes they're like, "Well, you're gonna stop hunting, right?" Or like, "You're gonna like take a step back from your work," and I'm like, "No, like not at all." Like, I would never want to showcase that for my child or any child at that point. Like, you want to be authentic and show them, yeah, it's probably gonna be hard. It's gonna look different, right? Like, I may not hunt every weekend like I used to with a baby on my hip. That's fine. My heart's still full.
Yeah. Because it comes down to what you want. And what you want also is to be a mother and to be
Yeah,
present and then also do these other things. But priorities,
right. When you work hard, set priorities, develop discipline, you can do all of that. Like, you really can.
yeah. Yeah. It's so fascinating. Um, and I'm really excited to have you back on the podcast here in
Yeah.
2 years.
Other than that,
And be like, all right, what's it like being a mother and being somebody who's an outdoorsman?
yeah, I love that.
You know, because it is truly fascinating to figure that out and that dynamic. I have 3 boys, and as much as I love having 3 boys, my oldest sons, they're ready to go hunt.
Yeah.
My youngest son, who's 4 years old, is not ready for that.
Hmm.
And so I have a difficult time where, because it's like, if I do it for one kid, they all want to experience it because they're all best friends and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, if he's doing it, I want to do it. So getting that one-on-one instruction of like teaching my kids how to shoot a bow or shoot a BB gun or just different things like that becomes difficult.
Yeah.
Um, and the patience is worn thin. And it's like, okay, I got to make sure it's fun for them, because if it's not fun, they're not going to want to do
It's also not fun for you.
it. And I'm not going to want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where the rope ends.
Yeah.
Like, that was too hard, right?
Yep.
What hunting? Well, I moved states. I lost access. Like, I went to college, played softball. I mean, I could be like a walking testimony for that, right? Grew up hunting, went to college, played softball, played 80 games a year, was majoring, was working a job, right? Like, I have time to hunt.
Yeah.
And I could have quickly succumbed to that and just said, that's just who I am now.
Yep. Yeah.
It's hard, but it is all about making and creating adaptations for the season of life you're in. Because that's going to change so many times over
Totally.
the
I love it. Wilberg 360. He goes, take the 4-year-old out next year just for a day or two. I started at 5. Didn't actually hunt, just walked with my dad and sat in the woods. And I'm sure you thoroughly enjoyed it. I love it. Dude,
years.
that's awesome.
Kid like snacking on potato chips loudly in the blind, like you see go viral all the time.
Yep. Okay, so Brittany, let's kind of wrap this up a little bit. I want to
Yeah.
talk about Outdoor Mentors as a program. So
Yeah.
you guys are based in Kansas. You're also have spread out to what other states?
Iowa and now Wisconsin.
So if other people who are hearing this all across the nation are like, man, I want this to come to my state, or
Yeah.
I want to get involved, or can they? Like,
Oh, yeah.
is this something possible, or is it because distance is too far away that they can't support or
Yeah.
get involved?
Yeah. So, yes and no, right? Like, we have, for example, folks from Wisconsin who like to mentor sometimes of our events in Iowa, right? Like, so distance, yes. I think it's all relative. What are you willing to travel to be a mentor?
Mm-hmm.
What are you willing to commit? One thing I love about our program, folks, right now, to be a mentor in our program, there's a simple application process online. Take a background check, and when you clear that, we connect with you one-on-one. I call you up, Johnny. Hey, who are you? What's your story? What do you like to do? How do you want to mentor kids in the outdoors?
Yeah.
Do you want to focus on fishing events? Got it. And we really take note of that stuff because it's so important to meet your volunteers where they are. They are being so selfless with their time, their talent, their treasure often, right? And they're sacrificing their own time with their own family or their own time. So we really like to focus on how we can best serve our mentors so they can serve kids. So that's a great way. I hate that we're limited to 3 states right now. I'd be like, yeah, we're in all 50 states. That's great. At some point, I think God's plan is for our program to be a nationwide program, and I'm pumped about that one day. Right now, though, we are in those 3 states. So I'd say that's like our main call to action is those 3 states.
Yeah.
But of course, we're always looking for supporters in terms of financial needs or land connections or wild ideas, right? Like my ideas are not always best. So I love it nothing more when I get an email from somebody who said, I heard about your program, I read about your program. Have y'all ever thought about running a raffle that's like this or for fundraising? Or have you guys ever tried to connect with this group? Because I only know what I know. So
Right.
be resourceful, share what you're thinking, share your thoughts about our program. I'm always a listening ear for that type of stuff.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. How can people get a hold of you guys over at Outdoor Mentors?
Yeah, so we've got Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you search Outdoor Mentors on any of those platforms, you'll find us. And then our website is outdoormentors.org. And there are lots of ways to connect through buttons. All of our contact information's on there. We're pretty easy to access and find.
I love it. I love it. Well, everybody, I hope that you found some inspiration in this video, in this episode, this podcast, because I truly believe that inspired people inspire other people, right?
Yeah.
When you see someone walking that walk that we've been talking about through this episode so much, you look at them and like, oh, if they can do that, I can do that.
I can sure start. Yeah. I
Uh,
love
being a PE and health teacher, I always talk about how smiling is contagious. You
Yes.
smile at somebody, they're naturally going to want to smile back at you, even if they don't want to. Like they might feel this is awkward or that guy's weird or whatever. But eventually, if you just keep smiling at someone, they're going to smile back because
Yeah.
it's contagious. And we want to make hunting in the outdoors contagious. And it starts with the way we
Yes.
speak about it, how we act about it, how we show it off and promote it, and the ways of being. So,
Yeah. Know your why. And if it's involving kids in the outdoors and empowering them, call me.
yes, I love it. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Soul Seekers podcast for Brittany French and Passing On Outdoor Mentors. We thank you so much. If you want to get involved, go to their website, outdoormentors.org. Go check them out, see what they're all about. Make a phone call, write an email, message them on social media, because you never know what's going to happen when we take action in our lives. The minute that we stop taking action in our lives is the minute that we start to die. Either we are green and growing or we are ripe and rotting. And we need to always make sure that we are constantly green and growing and getting better. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. If you liked it, please share it with your communities. Give it a thumbs up. Go subscribe. Leave a comment. I'd love anything of that nature. It would help promote this podcast and to share the mission of mentorship as conservation. Remember that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure and that you can never outgive good. I'm Johnny Mack. Be blessed, everybody. Freedom on. And as always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating as it helps us share our mission of mentorship as conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.